For the conclusion of Thunderwolf versus Seagauts, we've got Warriors of Chaos versus Kislev in a classic grudge match of two timeless foes. And let's take a look here at Thunderwolf's Warriors of Chaos, led by Archaon, the Ever-Chosen. Got a front line of Marauders and some Chaos Warriors. Looks like one of them mixed in. Some Chaos Warrior great weapons as well. Armored Trolls with some Throwing Axe Cavalry. A Lore of Zinch Caster. And some Hellstriders there out on the far flank. As for Kislev here, Seagauts coming in with some Horse Archers up front. He's got the Kislev Warriors and a couple of Armored Kossars as well. A Little Grom pounding away with Cannon. And 3 Griffin Legion led by an Ice Witch on Frost Worm. Let's get things rolling. Should be quite interesting to see how this all plays out, of course, in this best of 3 series. Both players has already won each once, so the winner of this takes it. For those of you guys who aren't aware, this is the Faction Master Tournament, which has been ongoing for some time. Basically, whenever a player uses a faction in the tournament, they can no longer take them. This is, in fact, from the second round, so both these players have already gone through one round of combats where they might have used some factions, but certainly leading to some pretty cool matchups. This is definitely one of the cooler matchups in the game, in my opinion, just given the lore of it and thematics. And if you imagine that all that sand is actually snow instead, then the map is even loreful. But yeah, we've got the Griffin Legion here chasing those Marauder Horsemen out. Just generally, Chaos going to move up and seize the objective here. That blue fire. Doing some pretty good damage to Little Grom so far, but Little Grom also is a very potent response. Massive 600 armor-piercing missile damage, an extra little 25 bonus versus large. So definitely will do a lot of damage and just snipe out unit models for various units. Right now, the Chaos Trolls looks like they've taken a couple of losses to the Little Grom there. Of course, any losses the Trolls do sustain can't regenerate, so it's a nice way to deal with them. Yeah, another couple go down there, which is that massive missile damage. And Chaos sort of being forced to attack uphill. Not great, but they do have some throwing axes unleashed on the Ice Witch here. And I'm also not the biggest fan of Chaos Warriors right now, especially shielded variant. The great weapons actually, historically, throughout the course of Warhammer 1, 2, and 3 have generally been the most cost-effective and best variant. Marauders getting pounded there on a charge from the Griffin Legion. But yeah, so far both players taking some losses, but Kislev definitely put in the hurt with the ranged. The Horse Archers also wheeling up and around, trying to go after those Hellstriders perhaps. But yeah, surprising how many losses the Trolls are taking. And, you might be surprised also from the targeting priority of Kislev to actually aggressively go after the Trolls here. But it does make a lot of sense. Trolls have good mass, they have decent staying power. Their armor gives them a pretty good, defensive ability versus the Griffin Legion, right? They're still probably not going to trade great with Griffin Legion one-on-one, but definitely a nice support unit to have in a situation like this. Ooh, if Archaon has Burning Head here, does not look like he does. Archaon actually might have forgotten to take any spells here, just only relying on the Zinch Sorcerer with blue and pink fire. Yeah, maybe would have liked to have seen, Searing Doom, honestly, for Archaon in this matchup, just due to the fact that Griffin Legion and other Kislev Cavalry are so good. I really like Searing Doom versus Cavalry, and, Burning Head also would have been a great addition here. Could have saved some money on that Zinch Caster and brought, maybe one extra unit of something. But right now, Chaos, great weapons, holding out as best they can. Do have some supporting throwing axes. Definitely avoiding that blizzard there, but they're going to throw in, try and support this engagement. Right now, the Chaos Warriors are holding okay. But Archaon slips through a gap here in the back line and is looking like he's going to try and get after Little Grom here. Little Grom is already racked up. That's the Griffin Legion. If we get a Little Grom stack card here. Yeah, 1,000 damage value already, 1,100. So basically paying for itself already, but still has some ammunition. So Archaon will go back to try and shut it down. You see the Ice Witch here. She's going to sense an opportunity, summon up her Snow Leopard companion, and chase down Archaon in the back line for a little 3v1 single entity engagement. See if you can get him off the board. The rest of the Chaos forces having a little bit of a tough time. As you can see here, the Chaos Warriors And the armor trolls starting to run out of steam in the front line. Both the great weapons are still online. But yeah, this throwing axe cavalry can get some work done, but definitely not going to have a lot of staying power. Archaon, being the beast that he is, perhaps could equalize things a little bit here, but blue fire being used on the eye switch there kind of even things up a little bit in case Archaon's forced to fight. Might be trying to wait out the Snow Leopard summon also to get a more favorable engagement there. Just about has. But I can't help but think maybe that blue fire, if you put it into Little Grom, you could actually force Fire Blood, maybe get out off the field. Even come back here with the Tzeentch Sorcerer and actually engage Little Grom in melee, just to make sure it can't keep pounding away. Maybe get those trolls back online, you know, with some regeneration. But right now, Kislev's pressing on all fronts. Hellstriders, you know, had a saga where they just lost out to the Horse Archers, it seems. And the Horse Archers used all their ammunition, now can move in with their pretty decent melee stats. And looks like their vigor is pretty good as well, so they are relatively fresh. Yeah, decent charge bonus, melee attack, everything all the way around. So they can definitely get in here and in particular pressure these Marauder Horsemen. Not looking great for the Warriors of Chaos right now, and in fact, Thunderwolf agrees, going to throw in the towel there and hand the series to Seagauze. Very well played to both players, definitely a very enjoyable time. Some highlights for sure for the Warriors of Chaos, even though the game overall was relatively rough. Seagauze had a very well-constructed build here, especially for that map, being able to take the high ground with Little Grom, rain down death from above, and use these Griffin Legion and Kislev Warriors to just push forward. The Horse Archers had a nice trade there. Unfortunately, the Hellstriders might have tried to pursue a little bit there, but they're so light and squishy. Just got pincushioned by arrows. Yeah, the Chaos Trolls also, while I do love the pick, at the same time, they were absolute fodder for Little Grom. Surprisingly, the one unit here, Chaos Warriors Great Weapons, gets some pretty good value fighting. This is definitely a matchup where they can trade well against Kislev Infantry, certainly. So I do like the pick, particularly like this matchup, or maybe Cathay is also another matchup where you could use them to pretty good effect. You know, here especially, they can fight, you know, Kislev Infantry. They do all right against the Griffin Legion and the Cavalry of Kislev, so out of all the variants, I think they're probably the most cost-effective and just generally useful in certain matchups. But here, Thunderwolf ultimately was not able, obviously, to take the win. We kind of talked about the magic situation already. The Tzeentch Caster, just switching the spells up. I don't know, maybe you have enough to take, like, one more warrior or upgrade this guy to a great weapon. Yeah, Kislev here, Griffin Legion do a great job. Infantry just kind of contributes some value. Nice kind of all the way around. The Ice Switch also surprisingly didn't get that much on herself. Kind of just more of a tank here. But yeah, we'll finish up with some final thoughts about Warriors of Chaos. I know this is a subject I've talked a little bit about. Some commenters have commented that they disagree, which is totally fine. But just in general, I find that for a lot of the Monogods factions in particular, like, it might not seem like that much to pay for 50 gold for an upgrade, but for a unit, at least for the shielded one, that already doesn't really do that much for you. Like, there's so many things right now in the game that kill infantry very effectively that yeah, they're going to struggle to really do anything offensively to make themselves worth it. The Warriors with Great Weapons, on the other hand, a Mark of Nurgle's 50 gold, which you may or may not have the funds to do. This is one that it does decrease their melee attack, which is a little bit tough. Again, it's going to decrease their offensive output. It does give them more health or melee defense, which will increase their staying power, obviously. But, you know, you need that offensive output for that armor-piercing weapon strength to be good, and 33 melee attack is just really not great for a unit of this price. So even then, like, the Nurgle upgrade is questionable. For the halberds, I mean, they're already pretty expensive, and halberds have some issues inherently in the fact that they have to fight units which are usually a lot faster than them. So they have a hard time picking their engagements. Horn ones do come with -5 melee defense, but +10 armor, which is alright. They also get Frenzy for better offensive stats, which is pretty good. You know, is that worth an extra an extra 50 gold? Hard to say. The Tzeentch ones with barrier and magic attacks also, you know, the magic attacks in particular in certain matchups can be quite useful. But again, like, if you need anti-large generally for Warriors of Chaos, there's a lot more options, in particular things that are going to be like mobile and can kind of dictate their own engagements, stuff like Rot Knights, Skull Crushers, so forth. So yeah, there's a little bit of overlap in that way, but it's not like you know, these halberds are completely unusable. They can certainly be used in certain matchups to decent effect, stuff like, you know, Bretonia, Ogres, matchups where it's very obvious you're going to need some measure of anti-large. They can be solid, for sure. But just generally, you know, these units, mid-tier infantry, there's less in the game, I would say, that are viable than there are viable, if I had to kind of think through the unit class. Maybe that's not 100% correct. It depends on, like, how you class some of these Grand Cathay infantry and so forth, like Kislev even, who we saw as the counterpart here, I would say has one of the better mid-tier infantries as well with armored Cossars. The fact they have pistols is pretty decent. Their leadership and armor is quite good. So, I mean, obviously the Warriors of Chaos armor technically is better, but if we just do a quick and dirty final comparison here, 750 versus 700, and yeah, the armored Cossar is just slightly worse all the way around, less HP, less of everything else, but critically, +2 speed is actually a pretty big deal for a unit that's this close. The rest of the stats are, you know, made up for by the pistols, in my opinion. You don't have a ton of volleys with them, but they do give you some extra utility. That means they're not just a slow infantry. They can actually respond in ways to, like, units trying to, like, Missile Cavalry, for example, right? Trying to shoot them, which probably isn't that good of an idea anyway. They're armored shielded infantry, but you get what I'm saying. It's also the fact that, you know, the armored Cossars are 50 gold cheaper, so just that much more cost effective, and the stats are really, like, not that much more impressive for Warriors of Chaos, justify their price. So that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.